Welcome to Soul Path Wisdom Community class. This is our Friday class. We're talking today about the astrology for December. It's a little bit early because next week is Thanksgiving here, and I'll be dropping a gratitude meditation as I will be traveling that day. But here we are. It's always good to get an early look at what's coming up. So first of all, as always, our ephemeris and sort of the sense of the major things going on. We've had a few months recently where there were a lot of planetary changes, uh, directions going forward and backward, pretty intense. But it slows down a little bit, I would say, in December. And we have obviously the full moon and new moon that we have and we'll explore more fully today. Neptune in Pisces is going to go direct, so we're going to start to see Neptune and Saturn moving out of their little foray into Pisces and back into Aries to come together and create their cycle. We have Venus and Mercury moving into Sagittarius, but December generally is the beginning of Capricorn season. And we always have the solstice, sun moves into Capricorn, and this time Mars as well as Venus will move into Capricorn in the second half of the month. So we'll start to feel that slowing down, great time, just kind of overall if we just looked at the archetypes on the big level, Sagittarius takes us into truth and meaning, maybe adventure, philosophies, and the Capricorn takes us into the building process and to look at things in a structured, strategic way. This fits, I think, pretty well into the beginning of the year. January, we often start to look at what's going to happen over the year and thinking about our plan for life. And of course, I'll have my 2026, the year ahead workshop coming up in early January also. That always helps to kind of focus that into the astrology of the year. Now here's our full moon. It is on December 4th, so not too far into the month. And it is at 13 degrees and 3 minutes of Gemini. Sign of Gemini, information, learning, writing, speaking, teaching, observing, all the ways that we relate to data. And the moon in a full moon is representing some piece of completion, some sense of standing at a plateau or a mountaintop and feeling like we have accomplished something. We may, on a big project, have a lot more to do, but it's very good at the full moon phase to just stop and think, what have I done in the last few weeks? What have I done in the last few months? There may be, bigger projects that last many years. So wherever you are in your various life cycles, you're looking at the sun representing in Sagittarius, the spotlight focusing on living in alignment with your personal truth. And we have Mars and Venus in a stellium with that sun. So there's an aspect here that we're looking at our relationships and the way we use our energies, the way that we move things forward, the application of will and desire, which ideally desire, has a sense of being a human ego quality, but will can be capital W will, where we're connected to the will of the high self, of the soul, or it can be very egoic will, and I just want what I want and I want it now and get out of my way. So we're wanting to elevate our connection with that life force and vitality to accomplish what it is we're working on accomplishing and connect to the way we wish to relate, and meanwhile, just letting go of a fixation on endless information. I would say one of the things you could look at with this full moon is What is your connection to social media? Are you spending too much time? It's very easy these days, I'm well aware that with so much going on in the world that we can get caught in social media or endless work with the internet in general, just endless searching and reading one thing after another. So this full moon is asking us to pay attention to how we're spending that energy on the cycle of learning, teaching, reading, and are we lined up with our highest nature, with our true philosophies? Now you can see that I have this lovely green cross here, that the square of the full moon to the lunar nodes is really, really tight. And a square to the lunar nodes can be called the skip step or the integrative step. Basically, any planets at the square of the nodes represents a pathway forward, and it tells us what we might need to focus on in order to balance the lunar nodes. So again, when we think about the lunar nodes, an opposition that's asking us to work with the energies at their highest level, but there's a little bit of a focus. The focus in Pisces is, can you surrender and trust? Can you understand the big picture? Can you express transcendent creativity, either yourself, pulling out the paints and throwing paint on a canvas, or reading a beautiful novel, going to an art gallery, going to a meditation circle, lighting candles and making your own space really sacred. All the qualities of Pisces. That's the solution with this particular nodal axis. And the Virgo, which has its good qualities, and we can always draw those forward, we can be one who is um, serving humbly with devotion. We can solve problems. We can fix things. Uh, we can be kind of quiet and a little bit hermitish. But the challenge of Virgo on the South Node level is excessive worry, anxiety, trying to figure everything out. Can't make a decision until all the details are in place, all the facts are in place. Well, this full moon can be supportive there on a positive level and can say, can you connect to your highest belief system of philosophy so that you know what you're bringing in and you are surrendering to the highest levels and not falling into, this monkey mind, Gemini, and the worry mind of out of control Virgo. So this gives us a lot of sort of beginning of the month marching orders of what we are meant to do. And of course, we still have this beautiful grand trine in place in water. That's going to start to go away by the end of the month, but we've had this now going on for weeks. And in certain circumstances, it has been a kite formation. I mean, it's still kind of a kite here. You can see that Uranus in the end degrees of Taurus. There's a sextile here to Neptune at 29 Pisces. But even when Uranus was had moved into Gemini, we really got to see the kite in formation. And a kite is a grand trine where you've got the flow, and then any planet that's a sextile to the trines is kind of an outlet energy. So Uranus, it's back into Taurus. It's completing our process that began in 2018. And we've got the flow of Saturn, Neptune, where Saturn is helping us structure and be mature about Pisces energy, and Neptune is giving us more Pisces than we can possibly handle. Our sense of intuitive connection, oneness, spirituality, compassion, and also suffering, right? I mean, it just seems like there's suffering everywhere we look. And then that takes us to Jupiter in Cancer, asking us to reformat our belief system about what care and connection looks like, how we can see ourselves as one big family. And right now, that is coming into Mercury. We won't worry about the vertex because that's a calculation that relates more to personal astrology. But Mercury, communication, what does it relate to? That Mercury connects to the moon, it disposits the moon, and it is also in charge of the South Node in Virgo. So this Mercury in Scorpio is super important for looking at what you're thinking about, what you're evaluating, the data you're working with, and having a complex, powerful, transformative process to go through. Now, you may realize that we just had a new moon at 28 degrees of Scorpio conjunct Mercury in Scorpio and the Mercury retrograde. And that to me was a major step in this current phase we're in right now, where secrets are being revealed. Of course, when I say secrets are being revealed, we can all think about the Epstein files and other secrets around the world that are coming to light. But what we have control over more personally is our own secrets, the the things we hide from ourselves, the old wounds that we don't often look at, that we pretend are not there, um, motivations that are are what urges us toward action. So we're all, today as I'm talking to you, what is it? I think it's the 21st. Uh, we are all looking at uh, this inner depth that has been activated by this new moon. And, it's very interesting to me that the new moon that we just had in Scorpio uh, is in a sextile with the solar eclipse we had and the last degree of Virgo at the very end of our Virgo season, right at the end of September. So, and there's another connection in the new moon coming up. So that eclipse, remember eclipses launch energy that move us toward our soul's goals, whether we're ready or not. So many times for people, an eclipse feels challenging, feels like things happen that are unexpected and shocking that we weren't ready for and really didn't want to have happen. But with distance, we can usually see that there was something important that was happening, at least on a soul-centered level, even if the humanness of it is challenging to reconcile. So the December moons are activating, and that is, usually the case as well, that we have eclipses every 6 months, and in between, at the mid period, we have eclipses that are or I'm sorry, not eclipses. We have moons, new moon, full moon, that kind of add a little bit of emphasis to the eclipse. They move things a notch forward. We might have an idea during an eclipse, and then something happens 3 months later that moves us more in that direction. And then 3 months after that, when we have the matching eclipses, that's when the actual action completes. A good example might be an eclipse where you find out that your company is restructuring, and 3 months later, they tell you what your role is going to be, whether it's you're being riffed or you are given a new assignment. And then 3 months after that, you're either happy in your new role with this company or you found another role. And so that's the way that I often see the eclipses move move forward. You can see here that we still have Pluto in a trine to Uranus. That is continuing for several years. That doesn't really start to separate out until 2028. So this is the, kind of endless transformation and awakening that started in the 60s, and we are moving forward to building new ideas in our society. And for the most part, I mean, we did the computer program doesn't always show the lines exactly, but it is a sextile from Saturn, Neptune to Uranus, and also to Pluto, even if it is out of sign. These are all working together. They are helping us structure something new, and that's happening in your personal life. And again, your personal life is where you can connect, be part of the puzzle overall by doing what your soul came here to do, and then working together in community, in groups to bring about appropriate healing changes. Now, here we have very strongly this new moon that will happen on December 19th. 28 degrees and 25 minutes. That's 28 and a half, Sagittarius. Now, the sign of Sagittarius is about, again, belief, truth, meaning, big picture, international affairs, very broad, sometimes hopeful and optimistic, can turn on a dime sometimes and be, devastated and pessimistic. It's like a big bubble, I think of it sometimes, and it just takes a little pinprick for it to burst. But in general, Sagittarians tend to be positive, optimistic, coaching, encouraging. And here we have, at the time of the new moon, a stellium in Sagittarius, including Venus and Mercury. So com communication, data, learning, and relationships are highlighted at the time of this new moon. We have Mars that's fairly close by, in my mind, that's just a few degrees. So the Mars energy of action and intensity will be part of this new moon. It will give it a little more firepower. The changes in beliefs and philosophies that people might be experiencing will have a little extra oomph, little faster, more assertive or even aggressive quality. Now, this is a big stellium, right? If you look at the Mercury at 10, almost 11 degrees, uh, it is exactly square the nodes. And what that means, even though where the moon itself is at 28, you wouldn't really say that's a square. It's a square by sign, but it's not really within an orb that most people would count. But that Mercury is going to pull it in. And the Mercury's in an interesting perspective because it is the ruler of Virgo. So it has extra power there. And it's again asking you to look at what are your beliefs? What's truth for you? And, what kinds of truths are emerging at this time? And how do we find that possible to expand our sense of beliefs and philosophies? Let go of the Virgo worry and come into Pisces, where we're aligned with the soul perspectives of everything that's going on. And you can see up here by the time we have this new moon, Saturn and Neptune are now direct in Pisces. So the Pisces review, remember Neptune went into Pisces in 2011 and Saturn in 2023. So we're very much at the end, late December, January of what that means. So that's a very good thing to be thinking about when you're thinking about this new moon in Sagittarius. It's like, how have you changed over these years? How has your spiritual practice changed? Is your spiritual practice where you want it to be? Is there something new or expanded or more disciplined? Remember, Saturn is like the the voice of discipline and structure. If you embrace discipline, structure, and hard work with Saturn, you will be rewarded. It might be hard for a while. You might feel like you're doing too much alone, but you will build what you're here to build. And Saturn conjunct this Neptune is we're here to build something new, steeped in Pisces values, spirituality, compassion, oneness, creativity, care for those who are marginalized. When they come into Aries, which is very soon after this, and remember February 20th is their alignment, then it's systems go. It's time. It's time to start the new paradigm globally and in your life. Things will move very fast. They may move faster than you feel like you can manage. And when things are moving faster than you can manage, the answer is to come in back into the Pisces, to come into the soul-centered place where you surrender and trust to what's happening and allow spirit to lead. If you try to figure all this out and lead from a human ego perspective, you're likely to have a lot more trouble. And you can see that the Neptune Saturn is in a square to the Sagittarius new moon. And so the new ideas coming forward are maybe a little bit stressed by the Pisces. And you're trying to figure out how to blend and balance the disciplined spiritual path with this sense that you want to move forward with more expansion, more abundance, more generosity. So two hard squares to this Sagittarius stellium. And then on top of that, we have the yod. And the new moon is at the apex of a yod. Yod is two quincunxes to planets at the bottom of the triangle that the apex and the bottom pieces don't connect. Quincunx is like you're not even in the same ballpark. You're different sports, you're across towns. There's no way that these planets can really synthesize and organize themselves together. So what you have to do with the quincunx is titrate back and forth between them. But the sextile that connects the planets at the bottom of the triangle, that allows them to synthesize. And then from this midpoint on the sextile, that midpoint can synthesize with the apex. Okay. So Jupiter in Cancer, belief system around nurturing, healing, family, caring, food, not really working with this Sagittarian new moon going forward, not connected to the beliefs. Uranus in Taurus, waking up to truth that's about, Taurus, food, body, the earth, stability and security, financial security. That doesn't really fit very well with the expansive quality of Sagittarius. But if you bring them together, if you say, how can I wake up to new ideas that bring about security and safety? Because my belief system is that I need to be nurtured and cared for and care for those I love. How can we have new ideas and expand our beliefs? Then that creates an energy and it can be synthesized by opposition with the new moon in Sagittarius, there can be new philosophies, new ideas that are steeped in Uranus and Jupiter's new ideas. So that's a lot of energy connected to the new moon. And we're definitely going to be feeling that. I wrote here on the slide, the truth shall be revealed. We are already in this process with the scorpionic new moon. And the eclipse going back in, Virgo, that this new moon is square. So square, there's stress and intensity, and it needs a creative new way of working together. That eclipse suggested that there needed to be some kind of analysis, review, uh, new solutions to problems. And now this new moon is stressful to that, but it's trying to take this a step further. It's trying to take our problem solving to a new level. And along the way, we've had all this scorpionic energy that's digging in and revealing dysfunctions, problems, hidden wounds, and bringing them forward. Again, we're getting a lot of that in our world in general, but I invite you to think about where you have old wounds that are preventing you from creating more security and stability and moving things forward in your life the way you wish to move them forward. How can you be more expansive? How can you live just a little bit more in alignment with your truth? Where are you holding on to some old patterns or old relationships? And what will be your next steps as we move into 2026? Because 2026 is the completion of all of the five outer planets and the lunar nodes moving into new signs. And the lunar nodes will be changing signs again mid-year 2026. So we're in a major turning point that yeah, is just worth sinking into. Now, as we come to a close here, those of you who are here in person, as you know, I'm willing to look at a few charts and see where these moons are affecting you. Meanwhile, just notice all the classes, the 2026 class, the intuitive and evolutionary astrology classes, astrosynthesis, spirit dance mentorship group, all of it coming about. They're all open for registration, and they starting in January or February. And I was thinking today, if there is someone who wants to have their chart looked at, usually I turn the recorder off or I have this the chart part cut out. But if there's someone who wouldn't mind having their chart looked at and have it be on the recording on YouTube, please let me know. Your last names are not on the chart files. Um, but I thought it would be nice for people who are following me on YouTube these days if there was a chart analysis that was public. So if you're willing to do that, would you please um, put your hand up? Okay. So, Sandra Jean, I picked having the new moon for you because I know that you have so much Pisces, and it's going, that new moon forms a square in your chart. It's certainly by sign, if not directly. And if we look here at your sun, you're in the balsamic moon phase, moon and sun in Pisces, and the sun is at 24, almost 25 degrees of um, of Pisces. So this new moon and the Venus is a pretty exact square with your sun. The Mercury is a pretty close square with the moon and the south node. So you're going to really feel this one. You're going to feel this sense of new direction. And it's a little hard. There's so many planets here. It's a little bit hard to see which house they're in. But you can see that the 11th house cusp is 21 and a half degrees Sag. So the Sag stellium spans from 10th house of career, reputation, how you show up in the world, But 11th house, more friends, community, uh, what your long-term plans are. And so you can be thinking during this time period about what your um, what your long-term plans are and who your friend group is. Who do you really fit with? And the if we go back to the eclipse, the solar eclipse in Virgo was in your eighth house. This is the place of psychology, wounding, things that are very intense, but also it's a place of medicine and healing. And now the Scorpio new moon that we just had is on your 10th house of career and reputation. And so this kind of continues this process to be connecting to the long term. I know recently you've had some health issues, and that's connected to both the eighth house eclipse and also Jupiter moving back and forth between the sixth house. And and so here for this new moon, if we're talking about you're working with it in a conscious, co-creative way, it is to take the time to see how you have changed over time and who your circle is, who your tribe is that you feel aligned with based on, truth, meaning, beliefs, what you're learning, and maybe also what you want to do connected to the world. The 11th house will have to do with our humanitarian efforts, the way that we feel that we can have a role in the outer world. And that's a little bit of a balancing for you. And we see that it's a balancing by the fact that you have a packed first house. Like this is a life where you're very connected to your first house issues, yourself, the way you show up in the world, your health, your physical body, and you're meant to be growing and developing in the way of Virgo in the seventh house of partnership. Pluto right there at the North Node suggests that you have had a lot of persecution through partnership or by partners in this life and in other lives. So this balancing between self and other is a key dilemma for you. Let's put it that way. And this new moon in Sagittarius and all this planetary energy out there in the 11th house is saying, kind of get up at the eagle view and look at this balance between self and other. See who your comrades are, your friends and associates, and maybe expand forward on that level. I'll also add that Pluto's been going back and forth over your Jupiter. It's not going to go back all the way anymore to 0 and 1. But that also is like a big transformation of what your belief system is and has been, and is, kind of helping you go to a deeper, more evolved place in terms of what is true for you. Okay.
What does it mean that my whole eighth house is empty of for healing?
It just means that there's not a specific energy affecting your eighth house at this moment. Now,
Mhm.
when you have no planets natally in a house, it just means that it's not the highlight that you're working on karmically. Where you have planets
Oh,
is where you have the benefits of the more positive planets. You have some of the challenges with more of the transformational planets. And of course, all of them in the end have their highest expression that's beneficial and powerful. Uh,
oh,
but in transit, it's kind of the same thing. Like the transiting planets will tell you where you're focusing a particular kind of energy to be able to heal and shift in that area. And then that healing and shifting and transformation extends back into the natal planet. So there's always a connection. Like, for instance, you have Neptune in Scorpio in the ninth house of beliefs, philosophy, and religion. This indicates deeply spiritual lives and a great deal of intuition that you brought in as core belief. And as Neptune has been moving through Pisces, you have been focusing on the development of your personal intuitive and creative energy, your experience of suffering and losses, your ability to be compassionate to yourself and others. So that's happening here mostly in the first house, but now Neptune's moved into the second house. So now you're working with money, resources, and self-worth, and that extends back to helping your Neptune in Scorpio evolve.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Kay. I appreciate that so much.
Thank you. And Diane, are you willing to have a public reading?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So this new moon is sitting right in your fourth house of home and family. The stellium crosses over from the third. So, siblings, neighbors, day-to-day life, what you're learning, what you're teaching, what you're thinking about, it's all, part of this new start energy that goes all the way. This is interesting that the Mars, which is part of the stellium, even though it's in Capricorn, that's on your North Node. So, there's a great message here about moving things forward around home and family. Sagittarius, the belief level and the expansion or optimism. But Capricorn North Node, of course, is always bringing you to accomplishing something. You're starting out with your South Node in Cancer, where you are open to heart healing, unconditional love. There's often quite a lot of giving that occurs when someone has a South Node in Cancer, a lot of intuitive healing ability. And of course, you also have Jupiter Uranus in the 11th house. So giving that healing to the world in some way, being a teacher, somebody who has unique ideas out of the box with Uranus. We see Vesta. We talked about Vesta in a recent class, and Vesta is, where you're holding that which is sacred. So Vesta connected to the South Node is a very significant indication of sacred past lives and bringing that deep feminine energy into this life as well. And then you're meant to bring those gifts it down into the world and especially to your family. And this Mars is going to add emphasis to that there's action required to stabilize the balancing between Cancerian and Capricorn energy. And maybe, something will move forward. Sometimes Mars in the fourth house just literally is you are moving or you've got a big repair to do, something tangible to structure and stabilize the house at a better level. So ahead of time, just really kind of cluing in intuitively to what your home space, your family, what they need. This will help a lot that you could co-create and manage something before it turns into an event. And I also notice here that with the Virgo rising sign and descendant in Pisces, we can talk about the solar eclipse, which was fairly close to the ascendant and definitely on Hygeia, the asteroid of holistic healing. And the new moon in Scorpio was on Venus and would tie into your scorpionic planets. So I would suggest that you have, in these last few months, been feeling the various lunar cycles in the area of self, your physical body, how you show up in the world, what your level of service is, the balance between skillful service, which is Virgo, and more psychic, energetic, meditative connections with others that relates to the Pisces and the fact that Saturn and Neptune are, in Pisces in your area of other people. And then the Scorpio that we just had, that kind of lit up your Sun, Saturn, and Venus. So here you are at this point, coming toward the solstice and having this new moon in the area of home and family. It asks you to be internal, introspective, but also maybe expand something about home and family that will be more in alignment with your beliefs.
Yep. And there's been a lot of renos in our building, a lot of construction, walls and ceilings demolished. I mean, it's been very intense, for the last several months. I would love to move out of here. I'd move, in a nanosecond, in a flash. Does it make a difference that my progressed sun is in Capricorn?
Uh, it would, to the extent that it, might be affected. It depends what degree it's at, how much it's affected. Do you know where it's progressed to in
Um,
Capricorn?
no, I didn't write it down.
Uh, well,
Well,
it's
actually,
probably late Capricorn, right? Just
it
because of
is.
your age. If you
It,
start out at 17 degrees of Scorpio, you're at 17 degrees of Capricorn when you turn 60. So
mhm.
you're, 12 years past that or so.
Well, I know that in 2026, the sun will progress into Aquarius.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not really affected strongly by this new moon.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, but it
And
would have been affecting your Chiron over the last few years. So whatever remaining residue you have about, Chiron energies, right? Chiron is where we have a wound, where we think the sign Chiron is in is not our best. We believe that we're not as skillful in that sign as other people are. So for Capricorn, it's like accomplishment, security, stability of, sort of a worldly level. We can think other people are out there doing things that we're not actually doing. But the thing about Chiron is there's a certain element of it that is an inner lie. It's not true. Like we can look at our life and we can see, and we start to see it around age 50 when we have Chiron return, we can see we actually have been accomplishing. So Chiron and accomplishing is particularly a strong aspect of Capricorn, a Chiron in Capricorn. You can think other people are more successful. But in the fifth house, it also carries the energy of creativity or maybe something about children, romance, playfulness, pleasure, fun. This is where you are working on trusting in your mastery, in your accomplishment. And from this position, you can be a teacher or a healer to others about Capricorn aspects. So, business, creative accomplishment, is just helping people organize their lives in a way that gives them some joy, right? Fifth house is the place of joy. So
mhm.
you've been with your progressed sun in Capricorn, you've been aligning with your Chiron, and then of course you've had Pluto going back and forth over the Chiron and 2020, 2022. So that was another level of transformation of your Chiron.
My progressed moon is in Sagittarius and will be there for quite a long time.
Ah, well, then it's likely to be very affected by this new moon. Hmm.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Thank you. It's yeah, healing and all of the healing therapies is, I feel, is my sole purpose.
Hmm. Yes, yes. Let's see who else is here. Um, would anybody else like their chart read? Yes, Mari, you have Saturn and Uranus conjunct in late degrees of Sagittarius. So we see that Venus is right on. The moon is definitely within a few degrees, close enough to be right on. Mercury is right on the sun. So this sense of your beliefs, your truth, what you're building, Saturn has so much to do about the karma of this life and what we're here to accomplish. Uranus has to do with the way we awaken ourselves first, the way we help to awaken others. You are getting a big shot in the arm, I would say, around your role in the world and your spiritual path. The 12th house can relate to spiritual vocation. When we activate the planets that are there, the planets that are in the 12th house in some way are buried in the unconscious with karmic memories of loss and challenges from those planets. So what we could say here is that you came into this life with unconscious memories of those in authority or power, uh, according to their beliefs, controlling you or harming you in some way. And Uranus in Sag would be something about the bottom dropping out, being shocked, something that you lost that was very upsetting and unexpected. And so to get in there with your spiritual path and develop a sense of you as authority with your own belief system, with a sense of being a rebel and a revolutionary, rather than being maybe someone who was rejected, abandoned, kicked out. Um, I get big psychic chills when I say that. There's something there in your karmic story, about being kicked out of the belief system or having to leave the belief system, and how important it's been for you in this life to deepen and connect to your own belief system. And this new moon adds emphasis to that process that you've been in. And the Mars, part of the stellium, right on the ascendant and very much on the Venus Neptune, would suggest that you are taking action in the way that you present yourself to the world and the business that you present, the stability, the maturity, the discipline and goals that you are bringing forward. So I would just look at this and say this moon is super important for you to clarify what you've been working on. I know you've been, studying astrology and building your astrology practice. It feels to me like this new moon is a level of launch that needs to be taken seriously. I would suggest a few days after the new moon to like send out a big newsletter or post something important or launch a new website version or something to activate that you are coming into a new space. And we know, looking here at the 29-degree Virgo South Node, that the eclipse was right on your South Node. So it's another aspect here that shows just how important fall 2025 astrology has been for you. I'll also add here Jupiter, retrograde now, Jupiter in Cancer, in your seventh house of partners. Partners, of course, can be spouse, romantic partners, best friends, business partners. But when you see clients, your clients are your partners. You are partnering with them. You're their guide. Their guide on their journey, and to see, in the highest level of consulting skills. We see ourselves as an equal with our clients. We are there to provide our specified knowledge that we have, but we honor that the client is always the ultimate expert in their own life. And we are equal in terms of who we are as souls. And so that makes it a seventh house relationship. Jupiter represents expansion. Sign of Cancer would indicate that you need and want clients who want to do healing work, loving, caring people who want to heal through the work they do with you. So Jupiter is asking you to expand that, maybe expand the healing that you're offering. I know that you've been studying the astrosynthesis with me, but also that you may be opening yourself to a whole new group of clients that you absolutely adore. And we've got Neptune and Saturn right on your North Node and, moving forward. So they are totally stabilizing the intuitive work that you're capable of doing and the teaching that you might want to do. And once they move into Aries in the third house, your role as a teacher is launched.